Hey, 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 welcome back to Drive Time. I am your host, Craig Pasta Jardula, and we do it live, bringing you all the hot takes, headlines, and unfiltered opinions that matter most. Whether you're stuck in traffic, cruising to work, or just chilling at home, we want to hear from you. Today's topics are all about the big stories making waves, but we're not just here to talk at you. We want to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and your take on everything from the latest political debates to the everyday challenges we face. Remember, whether you're on the left, the right, or somewhere in between, we welcome all points of view. So grab that hands-free device, dial us up, and let's dive into the conversation. What's on your mind? It's Drive Time. Call in now. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. How's my hair look? Man, damn. It looks so good. Never mind. Just kidding. I want to thank you all for joining in today, this morning. It's episode 46. I want to thank Sleepy for dealing with my crankiness, getting up late today, getting started. Thank you, Sleepy. You're always great for that. I don't know if you're on Mountain Dew or coffee yet. Where are you at? Sleepy?
Oh, my bad. I'm on coffee. I'm a little bit tired today.
I'm sorry. Dude, man. We're not morning people. We just have a morning show, okay?
Yep.
But we want to thank you all for joining on in. Listen, unfortunately today, Andrew had to take care of some stuff, some family stuff, so he's not going to be able to make it. But in this place, I figured, why don't we get back to that conversation we had yesterday, because I think that's still the talk of the town. So I made a call this morning, or a text, if you will, to the guy who knows meatballs and Chianti better than me. Ladies and gentlemen, Don DeBar is here.
Good morning. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing good. You're still looking great as always.
So are you. It looks like we have the same barber, though.
Huh?
Pillow hairdo.
I got
How you guys doing? How you doing, Sleepy?
I'm all right. I'm dragging ass today.
Yeah, I'm up. The morning is my time. I start fading about 8 o'clock at night, but I'm up around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Pasta knows. He's heard me bouncing around the house when I wake up.
But I like that lifestyle.
No, I was looking for.
That wasn't always the case for you, being a musician and stuff. You were probably
up
late
true.
doing gigs and stuff. But I like the newsman journalist lifestyle. I like getting up really, really early. However, I still, I'm still adjusting to this house right now, trying to get things done. I'm all over the place. I even took a nap yesterday in the middle of the day, which didn't allow me to go to sleep on time last night. And I didn't fall asleep till late. Woke up late, but I made it here in the nick of time at least. So, but I do like the early morning, the early, what is it? The early bird gets the worm.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Worms.
I think Don got up one day at 6:30. I said, you slept in. All right, so let's get to this thing. There's all right, ladies and gentlemen. I think yesterday was kind of interesting for me because I was able to go on the homeless left after doing my show, and I was able to talk about COVID. I talked a lot about COVID while COVID was happening, right? I was doing a lot of shows. The majority of shows I was doing was on a channel called Rockfin. I don't even know if it's still what's going on with that channel right now. It seems like to be fading away. It was a different platform where we could say things and not get censored. But that meant a lot less eyes on the work I was doing. And there was a pretty popular video out there from a guy named Brett Weinstein. Who, he's kind of a Zionist, and this is what we found out about later on. I mean, he was borderline, but he has a show called The Dark Horse, and he did an episode with this guy, a doctor by the name of Dr. Pierre Corey, who I've gotten to meet before, talked to. I got his number on my phone. I mean, he was since I met all the players during COVID, since I was talking about COVID, I was able to talk about it. That video went viral on ivermectin. I did a video before his about 2.5 months about ivermectin. So, when I talk about this, I'm not patting myself on the back or bringing my credentials. I just want to say that I was on top of stuff. I did a lot of work, and I love talking about it. I mean, I didn't like what was going on, but I was very well versed. I had done a lot of research on COVID, and I'm going to be writing an article, Don, called "The 10 Deadly Sins of COVID." Because before you jumped in the show, I talked about what the whole COVID situation was. It's like that guy who lies to that girl, his girlfriend, and then he's got to have another lie to make that lie okay, and then another lie, another lie. He's got to continue to make lies, continue to tell lies, excuse me, just to keep the original lie okay. And COVID was that way. As we were going along, everything, I mean, I would compare it almost to the moon. If somebody breaks down the whole moon landing, they go along the timeline, oh, that didn't happen. This is possible. That doesn't work. Look at this. COVID was the same way. And from its inception of how it was created or how it was formed or, you know, whatever language you want to use, I would still say created, right? That's my personal opinion about, you know, COVID. To the PCR testing, to the fact that they hid asymptomatic results and what it does and how it doesn't spread the virus. I have all these things, but I think what you brought to the table yesterday is also very, very important. I mean, you brought something that happened before we went through that whole craziness, which is the executive order from Donald Trump. I want to talk a little bit more about what that means and break it down and simplify it. But first, I think it's important to concentrate on what happened yesterday. And I have a little clip here, and I'm going to talk about it. Now, this is going to pertain, Don, to pleading the fifth for Fauci while having a pardon, immunity. Like, is that allowed? Is that legal?
Turn up your mic a little bit, Pasta.
If you have immunity, aren't you not allowed to plead the fifth? You know what I'm saying? That's what people are talking about. I'm going to play this clip here from Senator Rand Paul. Guys, remember, this is a call-in show. If you want to call in, 561-247-2721. Here this, guys. First sip of coffee. I had like a mini sip. This is the first real sip. Get your coffee going. It's drive time. It's early. We're here. It's Friday. You ain't got no job. You ain't got nothing to do. Here's Rand Paul. I'm with Don DeBar, Sleepy J. Of course, we want to thank Gabriel Freedom, our producer. Anybody else hanging out in the chat, we love you too, Fred Edward. Here it is. Let's talk a little bit about what Rand Paul is saying right here and break it down.
Let's be clear today, you know, what we've seen. I really did want to hear from Dr. Fauci. I wanted to hear perhaps an apology, perhaps some semblance of being sorry for what happened or that judgment errors were made. We didn't hear any of that. But he was subpoenaed here to testify, refused to answer any questions, even after being directed by the chair and being advised of the law requiring him to do so. He has cited a privilege that is unsupported because of his blanket pardon and because he waived the privilege by testifying at the start. I'm going to give you one more opportunity to comply with the law, limited to the period of your pardon. At any point between January 1st, 2014 and January 19th, 2025, did you destroy any federal record or tell anyone else to?
Under the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Given that you have a unlimited presidential pardon, what is your specific objection that you are making?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
My question was limited to the period of your pardon only. I find your objection unsupported and direct you to answer the question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Because you refuse to answer, citing a privilege that is unsupported because of your pardon, and after being denied to do so, this committee has scheduled a vote next week on a resolution certifying your contempt.
Can you give us a little bit more about what that means? That, you know, people have talked about this, that, you know, the fact that he has a pardon, he's supposed to talk, right? If he can't be held liable for any of these things, he's not supposed to remain silent. I mean, that is the argument out there, Don. Maybe you can shed a little bit of light and explain the situation, what Rand Paul said at the end of the day. What is that vote they're having next week?
Okay, that's a vote to hold him in contempt of Congress for failing to answer the question, for refusing to answer the question.
Yeah.
So Whether or not he has a constitutional right to refuse is the question that apparently there's a controversy between his position on that and not just Rand Paul's or the Senate's, but pretty much the whole body of law that I've read. Okay, so when I was considering the question myself, I'm not a criminal lawyer. I don't know very much about that practice other than what I've read out of interest. But the logic of it to me was that you're contracting, in essence, for immunity with the government. The government's going to grant it. They have conditions that they want to put on it. The condition is testimony. And then underlying that is the fact that the First Amendment is a protection against self-incrimination. And if you have absolute immunity, like a pardon, then you have no risk of self-incrimination, in which case there is nothing that you could say that would risk self-incrimination, and therefore there was nothing that you can claim Fifth Amendment privilege on. That's the logic. So I decided while you were playing that clip and I was listening, I decided let me do what I've been doing with a lot of legal questions lately, and with some great success in areas of law that I'm very familiar with, real property and such. And I started an interview basically with Google AI. So it says at the top, immunity overrides the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination, removing the right to remain silent by legally blocking prosecutors from using a witness's testimony against them. How immunity and the Fifth work together. The Fifth Amendment lets people refuse to answer questions if their words can incriminate them. Immunity removes that danger by legally blocking the government from using that testimony in criminal cases. Most users on Law Stack Exchange, for example, agree that once the threat of self-incrimination is gone, and this is a lawyer's website, by the way, the Fifth Amendment no longer applies, and the person can be forced to testify or face contempt of court, in this case, contempt of Congress. That's the venue. Types of immunity: transactional immunity, complete protection from prosecution for any crimes related to the testimony. Use and derivative use immunity prohibits the government from using the actual testimony or any evidence derived from it against the witness. Then it asked if you would let me know if you want to explore the difference between state and federal immunity and how perjury still applies even with immunity. And so that you've got the state versus federal is not really implicated here. This is Congress. How perjury applies with immunity. No license to lie. Immunity only protects you from past crimes mentioned in your testimony, not crimes committed while testifying. New offense. Lying under oath constitutes perjury, which is a completely separate and brand new criminal act. Prosecution allowed, the government can use your immunized testimony against you to prove you committed perjury. Contempt charges. Refusing to testify after receiving immunity can land you in jail for civil or criminal contempt. Truth requirement. To keep your immunity protections, you must answer all questions completely and truthfully.
Bingo.
Okay, so then there's cases and a bunch of other stuff if you want to go any deeper, but that pretty much spells it out.
The last comment right there,
Yeah.
right? Can you read that last comment one more time again?
Oh, sure.
And there's people in the chat making some statements we'd love to address. And guys, if you want to call in, the number is 561-247-2721. It's drive time in the morning. The last statement, Don.
To keep your immunity protections, you must answer all questions completely and truthfully. Now, this is not an immunity grant that usually happens in an agreement with the prosecutors, okay?
It's a
The
pardon.
immunity grant here, if I'm not mistaken, was a pardon by the president, okay? But that only extends to the things that were done. In other words, the testimony here is about things that were done before he set foot in the witness stand.
Yeah.
And so those are all, he's immunized against those. He's pardoned. There's no negative consequence to him for this.
Yes.
But He's testifying now. He's compelled to answer anything that doesn't implicate the Fifth Amendment. And the minute he got a pardon, then all of the subject material, all the subject matter for this testimony, there's zero risk of him being incriminated because he's already been pardoned.
Yes.
So it still applies. Like I said, I'm not a criminal lawyer. I've been interested in these issues, however, for a long time, particularly Fifth Amendment, First Amendment, and I mean, look, we were looking at the front in the 70s, that was making the rounds in the theater about McCarthy and them in the early 50s. And we lived through the late 50s and early 60s. I didn't, my cohort, whatever. We saw this crap play out. And to me, what's the most interesting aspect of it is the difference in the way the media presents it now, as opposed to the way they presented it back then. Because back then, the media ganged up with the Congress on the witnesses. And the issue there was whether or not they had been a member of the Communist Party 20 years earlier. And here, the media is ganging up on the Congress because they're defending Fauci, who is implicated essentially in violating Nuremberg principles and causing the deaths of thousands, maybe millions of people.
Well, the media is split, right? Some is ganging up
That's
on the
the red and
Congress,
blue
and some
game.
is ganging up like Fox News and News Nation and OAN and all those guys. They're ganging up on Fauci. It seems to be very, very split.
Yeah, we got a caller.
Yeah, and it's very, very interesting. All right, we're going to get to our first caller. We're here with Don DeBarn. We're talking to Dr. Anthony Fauci. We'll get more into this as the day goes along. Caller, who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up? It's Greg Walker.
What's
from
up,
LA.
Greg? The reason why
So,
I love your call,
go ahead.
Greg, by the way, is you're doing the actual drive and calling the show. Go right ahead, buddy.
yeah, I wanted to say, do we know what his immunity was for, or was that behind closed doors? And if he's like, say, a serial killer and gets immunity for murdering one person, but now is pleading the fifth because he's a known murderer, does that make sense? It's same with if he got immunity for COVID, but the AIDS epidemic and AZT poisoning.
No, he
It's still on
got
the table
immunity
in the
for
House
everything.
law.
He got immunity for everything that happened before. He was pardoned for anything he ever did. It was very broad.
So it's just like a blanket immunity.
Yeah, like if they find out that he was, hitting on 10-year-old girls in the school next door or whatever, that would also be pardoned. Everything he's done up to the issuance of the pardon is, gone. That's how it works.
Okay,
It's
I
not
was
my
checking
idea.
on that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, so
Just
Which-
imagine that
Yeah.
the institutions allow one man to do that. That gives one man that much power while they're in that office to do that. What else can they pardon? They can pardon just about anything.
Greg.
No, it's like
Well, I mean,
priest
the Pope used to
absolving
get sovereign
professor.
immunity, right?
Say again.
To like princes and kings. The
Yeah,
Pope used to
that's
get
right.
sovereign immunity.
Yeah,
Princes and kings, so they couldn't get dragged into court by the bishop.
yeah. Or presidents of Venezuela. They still have that legal right, by the way. It's just not respected by this government.
All right. Greg, do you want to follow up on anything? Because I don't want any empty air time. But do you have any other questions or anything else you want to talk about?
Ed, I was just curious about the legalese. Don seemed to have a little bit of a beat on it. You're not a lawyer, are you, Don?
Yes and no. I clerked to be a lawyer when I didn't go to law school, but in New York, you could become a lawyer by working for a lawyer in a law office for 6 years and studying with them I did all that. And I was in the title insurance business, and that was real estate law that I was learning, but I was learning the general law, practice of law also. And when I got to my 5th year of clerking in this job that I was in, they changed the requirements in New York to add a requirement of 2 years, an associate's degree and 6 years. So I went to college in addition to the job, and I kept doing the job. And when I got through the first semester of the second year, they moved it to a bachelor's degree. And I said, you know what? I'm making more money now than all my friends that graduated law school, and they call me for advice. So I don't think I need to do this shit anymore. And so I just stayed in the title insurance business, and I kept developing it. Like title insurance, you market to lawyers. And so my marketing was basically that I am an expert in all these areas of law that pertain to real property transactions, finance, banking, all this kind of shit. And so I studied the hell out of that, sent out, as soon as we had email, sent out bulk emails of my reading of the appellate division cases in the Second Department and New York State Court of Appeals and blah, blah, blah on a weekly basis. I was very frosty in all of the things that pertain to real property and foreclosure actions and litigation generally. So I'm not a lawyer, but lawyers consider me a lawyer. I just can't go to court for somebody else.
Oh, okay.
All
You're
right.
like a lawyer like my wife. Damn near a paralegal, but she's a felon.
What does she do?
She does logistics, but because she's a felon, she can't be a lawyer. That's good.
Uh-huh.
Like if you're taking oath to the bar, then you're basically loyal to the British Crown.
So my problem is every time I visited the bar, I sat down.
Ah.
It's nice. It's nice hearing you too. See, there's something else about this. I'm watching I started looking at some of the video from the McCarthy hearings, and there's this one scene in I mentioned before, the movie The Front. It's Woody Allen's movie. I know Woody Allen, bad, child molester, whatever the hell he did. This movie, though, it was mainly used a bunch of. First of all, there was the Hollywood 10 that were some of the people that were railroaded out of Hollywood because they were Jews, but that wasn't the only reason, because a lot of Jewish people stayed. But this was the public clamor, and communists, and they paraded them up there. And these are people who, I was 22 years old, and there was an anti-Hitler rally in Brooklyn, and it was sponsored by the local communist, group or whatever. And so I went and I marched in the parade, and I bought a couple copies of the Worker and blah, blah, blah. And then I went into business, and now I'm a fucking, multimillionaire. And they're treating the guy like he's a communist, because it's like a witch hunt. They're getting press and all of that. Like I said, the media was unanimously behind the prosecution and the persecution of these people, and it was over trite, shit that was deep in their history, that nobody got hurt and all of that. And here, where you have the media split the way you're talking about on red and blue, this is the very thing that Pasta is trying to do with this show, if I understand it correctly, is to try to get people to see past that shit at the actual issues that are in front of them that concern their lives. And what this is doing, again, is exciting the division between people and taking the eye off the ball of what actually was done by Fauci, which already he's not culpable for anyway. And if he named anybody before they hauled him in, Trump would probably pardon them too. Or if Trump drops dead tomorrow, JD, whatever the hell his name is, would do the same. Or if somehow Hillary became president, she would do the same. That's the condition we're in now. There's a lot of attention being paid to this, and it should be. I mean, you're talking, again, you're implicating the deaths of thousands of people, not even medical malpractice, like medical murder. But it's not the fundamental contradiction. We're not focused on that yet again. I mean, I don't mean us today and whatever. I mean, it's a culture. And we need to get there somehow. So, what do you think of that? I don't know.
Isn't it a contradiction, though?
Say again?
I mean, if they wanted to, isn't it a contradiction? If they wanted to, couldn't they be like, we're under a state of emergency? So,
Yeah.
your constitutional Fifth Amendment is null and void in this place.
Yeah. I mean, you've got first of all, two different groups, two major cohorts in the population here now that are taking oppositional positions on what do you call it, the Fifth Amendment. And none of it goes to the heart of the question. The Fifth Amendment itself, has very specific purpose, and also the power of the president to pardon has very specific purpose, and no one's actually delving into that except to accuse the other. Again, it's the red blue party crap, the team sport. And these are opportunities to do that, and I'm glad we have this opportunity to do it here, by the way. But the main media, this is what I'm saying, basically, is officialdom. The corporate media, the foundation media, because I'm not hearing this at Pacifica either. And I know some very good constitutional lawyers who have shows there. I haven't listened to Mimi Rosenberg's show in a while just because of the timing of it. But it's possible that she's discussing it, but it does the WBAI in New York. But most of the places in Pacifica are taking the line that one or the other of the lines, because there's some people who are also very heavily, attacking Fauci, rightly so, by the way.
The conversations I had with somebody the other day, I only had 4 callers on the show, but I was like, you know what, Don, I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm just going to let it go. And, Gary Knoll was on WBAI for a while too as well. And we remember Gary Knoll's stance on what happened with COVID. But the response I got, so only one of the 4 callers was kind of in the same area I'm at. And the thing that caller pointed out is the work from Dr. David Martin about the patents on coronaviruses going back years. In other words, he was showing that, and this is something you can go look up at the patent registry and take a look and see what's going on. He was showing a history of patents from these companies being developed, getting ready to make billions of dollars the way they did. That was the one thing that caller pointed out. But everybody else, they were still, I can't believe they're picking on Fauci. Like literally saying that. I can't believe they're picking on Fauci. How many times you got to call this man? We did what we could do. So many things were happening. Of course, mistakes were made, but how can you put that all on him? He tried his best. But they also believe too, Don, that if more people died from not getting the shot than had complications with the shot, right? And when you question them, and I questioned her about several things, the first question being, hey, do you believe the vaccine stops transmission? We don't know. We don't know for sure. I'm like, yes, we do know for sure. We know it doesn't stop transmission. So if that's the case, then why should anybody be forced and mandated to take a shot? Greg, I'm going to give you the last 30 seconds before we let Don jump in there and see if we got any callers going on. But if you got anything else to say, now would be the time to do it, my friend.
Oh man, I lost. Oh, the patent. What is a patent? It's claim to ownership, right?
What's that?
And I looked up. It's claim to ownership, is it not?
You're a little bit low.
Yeah,
Can you make your volume louder?
Yeah, I'm on my Bluetooth today because I'm on the
I
road
turned
right
it
now.
up a little bit.
Okay.
He said it's
He basically,
A patent. What is the patent? It's claiming ownership, right?
Yes.
And I looked into the patent on hantavirus. They already have patents on the fucking. If you look at the U.S. Patent Office, I could send you some links if you want to check that out. But
I think you
I
said
forgot
you
what I
looked
was
up.
gonna
There's
say.
already a patent on the hantavirus. So
Yeah, I looked into if the hantavirus is patented, and there's already patents in the wind for the mRNA vaccine that aren't out yet.
yeah, doesn't surprise me, brother. Doesn't surprise me. Send me the link. We'll take a look at it. We'll throw it up if we can. I do.
Before you
appreciate
go,
Yeah. Don's got something to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is what I had texted you yesterday too. This occurred to me after I finished. It's important to distinguish. Like language is important. it's important to distinguish between a COVID diagnosis and someone that actually has COVID infection, because they were diagnosing COVID before they could find it. It was people had this new flu, nobody knew what it was, etc., and they couldn't identify its genetic makeup, and they couldn't say, "Oh, here it is," when they were looking at blood and mucus or whatever, however they looked for a month, 2, 3 months or something. How far back?
Did they ever isolate it, or was it only 3D modeling?
I'm sorry.
Did they ever isolate the coronavirus, or was it only 3D modeling?
No, I don't know what they were doing. I'm talking just in general what was being discussed publicly. They haven't found. Oh, we found it. That when they were looking for, if you're going to do a vaccine, you try to find the virus, and then the old way is to mitigate its ability to function, and then reintroduce it. The body says, "Oh wow, I know what that is," and the thing can't fight. The body fights and says, "I'm kicking your butt," and now I have my defenses against it, set up for the next time I see you. They were so I'm explaining this like in simple terms, but what happens is they identify the first part of this. They identify the virus. Now they were diagnosing people with it before they were able to identify it, to see it, to find it. And what I'm saying is, obviously, there's a whole lot of possible misdiagnoses there. And the reason I'm bringing this up is to ask this question. There were deaths, like a swelling of deaths accompanying this that were, tied to COVID. We have a natural swelling every flu season with that. What I'd be interested in seeing is when you started having a swelling of unexplained or just any kind of deaths from flu-type symptoms. If that had started happening in July, for example, or September, or whatever, and I'm wondering if anybody's actually studied that. That's the question I wanted to ask.
I believe Zoe Smith. She wrote the book, The Thrill Kill Medical Code. It's looked into that extensively. November 2019?
Yeah, we're talking like maybe even going back to July or November 2018, and looking at the slopes, and see what happens. Just deaths generally, and then more specific ones like bronchial or pulmonary infection or whatever.
Greg, put your window up so we can. Greg,
flu.
put your window up.
No, I'm just on the freeway. I'll try to wear
Yeah,
earbuds next
he's on
time.
Bluetooth. There's not much he can do on that one.
Okay.
But I think flu essentially disappeared during COVID.
No, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. If you had flu, you had COVID. That's how it was diagnosed.
But that was because of the financial reasons. So.
Well, whatever. I mean, look, that's how the model. Look, I'm a doctor. Guy comes in, runny nose, fever, etc. You got flu. Here's this shit. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Take plenty of aspirin. Call me in the morning. And that now it's COVID that's out there instead of flu. I mean, they don't take blood tests for a diagnosis of these things when it's, flu season or COVID season. So nobody's looking to see what virus is this guy carrying. They're just looking at your symptoms and treating you with what their medical training tells them is what's going on. This is that's the standard practice. So, obviously those numbers could be cooked. And, the president's fucking decree said it shall be the policy of the government to enable this policy that we want to follow, to help people, I forget what the word, but that's basically to persuade people to shut up and do what we tell you.
Greg, thanks for calling in, brother.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, man.
You guys have a good morning. Or afternoon. I don't know what time it is.
Take it easy.
Have a good one.
So we do have a super chat from Snorky, our other professor. Snorky, if you want to call in today, it would be a great day to call in. The question to ask Fauci is, was the National Animal Disease Center in Ames, Iowa, consulted about the bat theory? The National Lab is the authority on animals' diseases. I don't recall seeing that particular center come up. I think I heard it talked about once before in an article that they referenced, but I don't know if it was actually if they went or consulted with that particular center in Ames, and that does also seem a little bit crazy because that's the it's the authority on animal diseases. So
You ready for next call?
yeah, very clearly they were selling. Still there? Okay.
No,
Very
they hung
clearly
up or
they were
something.
selling the theory of a wet market right out of the gate. And if you did say lab, you were a conspiracy theory. Caller, who are you? Where are you calling from?
You there, caller?
Yes, yes.
Where you
Go ahead.
from? What's your name?
Hello. Hi, I'm B. I'm calling from Connecticut. I've been listening for a while. I listen offline. I'm a nurse. I just wanted to say that Don is right about the symptoms showing up long before the diagnosis. I remember working in the hospital in the September before COVID was initially like diagnosed. A lot of patients were dying in the ICU from pneumonia, and when we sent symptom specimens for sampling, we couldn't get the diagnosis. We couldn't get the like microbiology, and people were dying on ventilators even before COVID was diagnosed, and we couldn't find out why, like high incidences. So I think it was happening long before they even started talking about or labeling it COVID. And then just like he said, flu symptoms or flu diagnoses dropped that same season. And I'm wondering now, like, if there was a way they were, I don't know, inoculating patients, because it was mostly people from skilled nursing facilities and nursing homes that we saw that happening in. If they were using like the flu vaccines or something like that. I'm sure there's other nurses that are listening, but I'm thinking that something was happening that we didn't know that they were using. I can't stay long on the phone, but I just wanted to contribute that because I've listened to your show for a while, and I've noticed that a lot of us are noticing the same thing, and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's bigger. Yeah, a lot of us. Is it Dave? He mentions a lot of things that I noticed, and Don mentioned a lot of things that I noticed. But like I said, nobody's talking about it, and I gotta go.
I do
I
have one
can't
quick
stay long,
question,
but I
though.
just wanted to contribute that.
Can you answer one quick question? Why were people on ventilators so early at that time? Was it just because that was the only avenue in which they could be treated, or was it a protocol?
That's what we were being told. We were following protocols, and their ventilator requirements were going up and up, and we were like maxing out the ventilators even before COVID.
Yeah.
People were dying on ventilators, and that was rare, for someone to die actually on a ventilator.
So did the standard change? In other words, did they give lower threshold of symptoms, ventilator where they might not have before, or were there more cases of people in distress that they needed a ventilator?
There were more people in distress, like the secretions were higher. We had to max out the settings for the ventilators, and they were still dying.
I understand. Thank you. That means that indicates. Yeah,
I gotta go. I'm sorry.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
You can jump off, sweetie. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
B.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that indicates that the disease was here, at least in Connecticut. I'm right next to Connecticut. I need to be asking my doctors because I haven't done that. And when this happened, I was talking with my doctor about it, and I asked him, should I do this or not? Because I have these misgivings, and I know it doesn't have enough, research. They haven't really tested this on people. And he was like, look, I hear you, and I agree with you. He said, I'm mandated to take it. because I'm going to be treating people with it, and that's the way it is. But you know how to read, and you're right. So do what you do. So that's the last time I had conversations about it with doctors, though. So I need to be doing that, because that was useful information from somebody who sees up close what's going on.
Yeah.
We're speculating about it. Look for data.
Did you notice too as well? And thank you for making the phone call and being courageous
Yeah.
and talking about it, because that's the position they really put a lot of people in. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't know just the frontline doctors. I knew the frontline nurses. And, you know, a lot of nurses that came forward and spoke, and, well, you know, and even speaking to nurses, what they see today with people who are getting these cancers, and they immediately look up the records and they see, you know, if they've taken the shot or not. And I know somebody in particular, I'm not going to mention who, that, you know, says that, you know, mostly when you're looking at some of these cancers that have just, you know, what they're calling them is turbo cancers, because they're just boom, that's it. You know, my friend, he got the jab, he got the booster, he got diagnosed with cancer, he was dead 13 months later. It was a shame, you know, but that's just one story of many. And every single time that person tells me they seem to look, it seems like that person's gotten a booster, a couple shots, whatnot, and there definitely seems to be a link. But it's hard to talk about this because people's livelihoods are at stake.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, people are still getting fired, and people are told to shut up, and people are getting sued, you know, and they're getting slapped with fucking restraining orders. And it's a very serious situation. So hearing that caller come in and just, you know, wanting to get off the phone, can't talk long because of the pressure that they're facing, you know what I'm saying? It reminds me of what happened during COVID and how fucked up it was. Because it's not just about a virus and a disease, it's about the rearrangement of our society. It's about what the government can do with its powers, you know, what they can mandate, what they can dictate in a way. And the scare tactics, right? I mean, the way they got everybody to quarantine on the street without quarantine in their house without putting a tank on their street. There's something psychological about this whole situation. And just hearing people continue to talk, oh, poor Dr. Fauci. Oh, you know, they're talking as if, you know, the people who didn't get the shot died, right? Like there's a lot of older people who didn't get the shot and they died. And, you know, that is true. But they could have been an older person, got the shot and died anyways, too. You know what I'm saying? That's something that
I'm
never
old.
comes
I
to
died.
mind. Yeah.
You know, this is part of the conversation I had with my doctor. Now, 2020 is 6 years ago. So I was 66 or something, 65 years old. I had a COPD diagnosis. And I don't remember, I had some minor cardiac issues. And so he said, look, your age and your two conditions make you a higher risk, you know, of a fatality or some serious damage if you get the flu. This is the flu. In terms of how this differs from anything else, I don't know any more than you, because it just appeared.
Yeah.
And this vaccine, how safe and effective is it? I don't know any more than you, because I know it's a new technology and we haven't used it before. And there's really no data on what it does with human beings. It's brand new. So I don't know any more than you about this at all. I can only tell you as your doctor, if this helps you avoid a flu, it's a good thing, because you're a higher risk flu than the average person. But it's up to you, because who knows what it'll do instead.
Yeah.
I brought up thalidomide. You know, thalidomide was this mild painkiller that was given to women back for child. I think it was for people women that are pregnant back in the 50s. And what it did, it ended up inducing all kinds of birth defects that, you know, people with like no arm, just a hand coming, like really genetic damage. And it was widely dispersed. This happened widely across the United States. They don't talk about that. They certainly haven't mentioned it since COVID. And it should have been the first thing that, if Fox, for example, is you know, really taking the side against Fauci, they'd bring up that this is a risk. They'd be bringing up Nuremberg principle.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the law and the history of these things in reality. And the real motivator behind it is money. And so if Fox followed that to its logical conclusion, they would be talking about socialized medicine. And I don't mean Medicare for all. I'm talking about the deep shit.
There was also a push against universal health care because of this, because of the mandates. In other words, people took a look at the angle
I
and
know.
said, I
And
changed
the
too as well.
libertarians, anarchists, yeah.
Yeah, well, even myself, right? Like, I'm like, we don't have a health care system. We have a sick care system. I don't believe Medicare for all should be a thing because I don't want to be forced to take a vaccine to keep my Medicare because Big Pharma tells me to do something, right? I'm back on I am believe in Medicare for all because I believe health, at Medicare, well, universal health care is a human right. It really is.
That's
I do
right.
believe that. And even though it's a shitty system, I'd rather have a shitty system where people who can get their insulin that need to, rather than no system at all. So I mean, I'm back there again. But I did, looking at our system and analyzing our system as COVID was taking place, looking in areas I never really paid a lot of attention to. I was like, hold on, this thing is just understanding the power that Big Pharma has. We are going to have an election this year in Brazil. And Bolsonaro, his son, is running this time because he's not allowed to run. Jair Bolsonaro.
Lurleen. Is his son's name Lurleen?
Flavio.
No, you know why I'm saying Lurleen.
Why?
Lurleen Wallace. Yeah, George Wallace, when he was governor of Alabama.
Yeah.
Segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. That guy. When
Yes.
he was term limited out, which was the only way they could get him out, he ran his wife, Lurleen. Lurleen was a nice Southern housewife. I was taking care of George, but they made her governor. And really, you go into the governor's office, Lurleen is sitting in the corner knitting, and George is at the desk with his feet up on it. So that's why I said Lurleen.
Funny thing. This case is a little bit different because Jair wasn't term limited out, right? He could still technically run, but the Supreme Court of Brazil has said that he can't run, which is something I disagree with. I disagree with the way they kind of jailed Lula and didn't let him run. So it's not like I'm picking sides.
No, they're exercising
I'm just saying,
power.
I'm principled across the board, right? Principles is principality. And by the way, thank you again, Snorky, for the super chat. If you want to do a super chat or any of the links down below, we're going to be having more discussions. Obviously, our producer, Gabriel Freedom, there. We're going to maybe crank back up the Patreon, get that rolling. We'll see what we can do. We're working as a team over here to better things, and we appreciate all your information that you give us, all your suggestions. Don, you talked about the music you can help us out with, being a musician.
Yeah.
We can figure some of this stuff out. It is a new show, and we will make things happen. But right now, it's just important for the participation, you guys coming on in and getting the numbers up. It's great. Right now we have 26 people on YouTube, and we have 19 people on Rumble. Only 45 people, but we'll get it higher. We'll get it. We've been getting close to 100 a show by the time the shows are over, and that's kind of cool. Every week has been better than the last. Let's continue to make the show grow. Every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 8 to 10. And on Monday, the friendly neighborhood Zionist, Alex Strenger, will be back on, so we can bag on him a little bit about being a Zionist. But yeah, that's
So before we go away to the next topic,
yes.
I wanted to just say something that after to sort of punctuate what you said.
Okay.
The tension between the government and public functions and private rights, and that is the government having power is only bad when the government is not democratically owned. And I mean in practice, not just in some bullshit paperwork. If the people direct the government and if the officials are responsible to, culpable for, and have to listen directly today to what the people say, and if that's the mindset and the culture and the practice, then whatever you put into the government's hands, you're putting into the public's hands.
Yeah.
But when there's a dichotomy between the two, and the government is run by a political class and not by the people, then of course anything you give them is a weapon against the people.
Yeah, spoken like a true Marxist, and it's why election integrity is my number one issue. Because
That's
to
an
make that
important
happen, you need fair elections. You have to have the ability to hire people and fire people And if you can do that, then yes, you can make them accountable to the people. And that's why, I want universal health care if we have fair elections and we have a good if we have a representative government, then we can do these things. Absolutely. I still agree with the libertarians to some limit, the fact that we have to limit what powers they can have. In other words, we don't want them in everything. Let me put myself over here. We don't want them in everything. We don't want the government running hotels. And we don't want the governments in hospitality. We don't want the governments in restaurants. We don't want the government in, certain areas. But healthcare, education, infrastructure, military, those areas, look, we're one species on one planet. We're going to have to find a way to play nicely in the sandbox. So the anarchist mentality that everything has to be privatized, everything has to be non-governmental, it gets a little bit, I'm sorry, I don't see it that way. We got to find out a way to make things work. But the reason why I think the libertarians are like that, Don, is that they're not really personable people, right?
Oh, come on. Don't say that. No.
You've been in a room
Some of
with
my
them,
best
right?
friends are libertarians.
They're a little
That's
strange,
a true statement.
you know what I'm saying? Like, if you brought a lot of these people to a cocktail party, they'd feel a little funny, right?
Not all of them. I know a couple libertarians that drink you under the table, okay?
Yeah, I know. There's a few of them. But as
I'd
a
say
whole,
Gary is one.
Gary's awesome. Yeah,
I think
Gary's
he's a
awesome.
libertarian, I think.
Yeah, but
But
there's a
yeah, I
reason
hear.
why
Look, everybody's got their sort of cultish behaviors about their politics, I guess. And we're tuned also to see them, maybe even if they're not there, because these are characteristics that are ascribed to them. But I just, to me, everybody's sort of right about their different things under the present system. Libertarians are looking at an oppressive government structure and saying, I want as little of that as I can get away with.
Yes.
And they're right to do that. But
Yes.
and you're right to say healthcare is a human right, for example, and yada, yada, yada. The problem is systemic. And what we call government right now isn't what government has to be or has been in different places and at different times. If the government is democratically owned and run, and if you don't have an army ready to invade to enable some people to put emergency measures in place, the people can run the fucking society themselves. And so what's the government and what's not? The government's merely just an administration at that point.
Yeah, that's what we want.
That's what Marx said, laid out 150 years ago.
Yeah. But then you have cultural Marxism, which is no such thing.
That's
It didn't come
bullshit,
from
name
Marx.
Neither one.
Cultural Marxism was created like 150 years after Marx was dead. You know what I'm saying? It was just such a CIA op to tie all this woke bullshit, right? You know what I'm saying? To get into people's households, to actual workers' rights. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at what Marx was talking about, it's just workers' rights. And I don't know why people can't just separate the two. Well, it's kind of, radical left, it's crazy. It's like, look.
There's a basis for it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, racism, sexism, all these different things permeate the society. It's our heritage and it's our present. Okay, and they mischief make with it by promoting an ideology that, in essence, creates two classes of people: racists and anti-racists, and anything else and it becomes a fundamental. And it is a fundamental issue, by the way. Yeah. But the structure isn't inherent racism, for example, in each person. That may be enables it, but that's been inculcated because we were never born with that either back 300 400 years ago. It's dispersed. It's an infection that is planted in the population to keep it divided. They had white slavery here at the beginning of their invasion and colonization of this hemisphere, and as they conquered peoples in Africa and dragged them over here, they realized that they could give some privileges. Okay, you're not a slave anymore. Now you work for me. I'll pay you. Here, you can have a cookie every 3 weeks if you get out in the field and tell that guy what to do or whatever. That's kind of how the whole thing developed, and we haven't undone that yet. Reparations are one angle, but reparations are not going to change anything here if the whole structure isn't changed.
Yeah.
And it's not going to make the structure change. It deepens the antagonisms. What we got to do is build an alliance that takes the whole fucking thing down
Yeah,
peacefully.
that's true. And you know, reparations is an interesting thing because I was totally against it because I thought it would be even more divisive. But I don't look at reparations. There should be reparations, and the reparations really that should be paid out are for unpaid labor. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? If they make it a labor issue,
and
like, hey,
interest.
the White House was built by black people. Those people
Yeah.
deserve their money. That built that society, paid
right.
them what they're due, right? And it's got to be American ADOS, American the descendants of slaves. Those people get the check, even if they look a little bit like us,
Yep.
right? If they come from that lineage, that bloodline, and they were here doing work that they didn't get paid for, they got to get paid. It's for unpaid labor. I think that's a good way to sell reparations. If you sell it
Yeah.
as a work issue, as a
That's
labor
what it
issue,
is.
you can sell it. But if you sell it as this is for the great sin, what white people did to black people, now you're back
that's
into
my
the same.
point.
Yeah, you're back
First,
into the same.
you're
fucking
never going to
problems.
get it.
Yeah.
You're never going to get it that way.
Yeah.
It's because now people are fighting over this shit like they fought over abortion rights and everything else. When they were able to divide the population with Roe v. Wade, like all of a sudden that became a central political issue instead of just a Supreme Court decision and the implementation of it. And when they were able to do that, they started modeling that in every area of contradiction in the society. Racism is an obvious one because there was already that division that evident from the beginning all the way through slavery, so-called Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Civil Rights Movement, the Human Rights Movement that it started evolving from that, which it was really always a part of the Human Rights Movement. And so now we're looking at it with all the data that they've taken in from social media and from whatever Madison Avenue, over decades, even a century of accumulating that kind of information. And they distribute the data to us every day through social media that just stimulates these kinds of divisions across the board.
Yeah.
People that have been the victim of racism, sexism, etc., are rightly pissed off over it. They certainly feel the effects of it because they're affected by it. And so if you say, give these people something, they're like, yeah, you're right. You'll fucking owe me something. And what they don't say is we're going to dissolve this bank up in Boston or Providence that has a shitload of capital that's directly stolen from the labor of these people. Let's take that and give it to them. They say, see this guy over here that has a house across the street from you that's a little bigger. Let's take that from him.
Exactly.
And so what's going to happen? The two of them are going to be fighting each other instead of the fucking bank.
Yes, and that's a very big important point to bring out. Just the same way they can find the lineage, the American descendant of slaves. They have all this marked down. They can find this stuff. They can find out. They also
There's studies too.
They also know who profited from slavery too as well. That lineage is very, very alive. When you say that bank in Boston, they have all that information. We have it all. We have it all, and we can do that. And I think that's something like a white guy sitting in Detroit who is not going to get a check, is just sitting on the sidelines, and he can see that and say, good. Those fuckers who exploited those slaves back then, right?
Yep.
That are now this bank in Boston, they're the ones who have to pay. I can get behind that because that guy did labor and it didn't work out, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And as long as you sell that and say, okay, well, we're going to also fix labor of today to make that more fair. We're going to work on that because that's part of the collaboration of the group coming together to fight all this stuff.
Right.
Then you really got something cooking. Then you got something cooking.
Take it a step further. This will illustrate something.
Then you got a self-cooking. Yep. Dallas Buyers Club, Fauci's first really public murder spree.
You ready for the next call?
Yeah, let's do that. Caller, who are you? Where are you calling from?
It's Jay Johnson.
Jay.
You do.
What's going on?
Hey, it's good to hear from you, brother. I love the show this morning, and you're touching on so many topics that I've been waiting to come back around to the light.
Right? We're circling the wagons with you.
Love it. So On unpaid labor, I believe that's absolutely right, and that's exactly how I've been wanting it to be framed since before Black Lives Matter got co-opted.
Yeah.
I really wanted that to come across as damages, and also,
Yeah.
like the Native Americans, for the opportunity for Black people to be able to have the opportunity to say, hey, listen, maybe we want our own nation since we didn't have the opportunity to stay on our own. Maybe we get an opportunity to have our own casinos and be on federal lands. I mean, if all these other things are taking place, I'm not saying we want special treatment, but maybe we just want the option to have what was already set as precedent. You already gave a precedent. Let's extend that by allowing, say, 3 or 4 nations of African American people. Now that's just one way to look at it. The other thing is in that is not just the damages of unpaid labor over generations, but also what you have is equity. And when you have equity, a lot of people have perception that my demographic doesn't care about what happens in the nation. And what I believe people will find is that when people have more of what they're a part of,
Right.
especially when they are given equity share that is balanced and fair based on their population, then they'll be more willing to fight for it.
It's mine.
And
I
work
take
for
care
it.
of what's mine. I take care of what's mine. That's natural. This is why I'm talking about the banks, for example.
Absolutely.
What do you think about shares of stock, for example, in say Fleet Bank or one of the banks that was, a major holder of deposits of slave owners?
That's spectacular.
Yeah.
Actually, I go further. What I'd say is that I feel as though the United States, and you guys were talking about how the system's broken. I believe that the system is in a place where, just like in the 70s, when inflation just took off and people's wages weren't being inflated to go with it, it was tied off there, that it's not in the right time frame. Our pay is not in the right time frame, just as in our electoral system is not in the right time frame. So we need a direct democracy, and that direct democracy can be done just on our mobile devices. Now, not in their current form.
That's true.
But the technologies can change so that we can re-encrypt and then get open source coded received keys that anyone can look at. Okay, I voted for this person and this is my receipt number. And then no one knows who the receipt number belongs to, but everyone can verify, hey, look, I see my receipt number here, and this is who I voted for. And that person's name that you voted for is right there. When you have conflicts there, people can check openly against that. If there's an issue, then the people can bring it to bear.
Let me ask you a question also about, because this is where I was going to go before. So let's say the policy of the government or something, or whatever, magic, some lightning bolt, whatever, reparations and equity, and that's why I suggested the bank. I mean, if you get shares in say Fleet Bank or whichever bank we're talking about, your position has grown with history because the bank has continued to make money. And in other words, they weren't subject to the wage, deflation or whatever that where you're referring to with inflation in the 70s. They kept fucking making money. So now suddenly you get a chunk of that. You now have recaptured the growth that you should have had in that sense, anyway. But what I was going to ask about is, there's also this discussion among people, and particularly in the Black community, where people are working on reparations. That and I know Pasta was referring to it, I think, when he said some things where they're talking about only American Blacks, whatever term they use, people descended from slaves should be entitled to it, not Haitians or Jamaicans or whatever. But if you think about it, the very fundamental argument about stolen labor, stolen wages, however you term it. Haiti, all the places that our foreign policy has imposed exactly those conditions de facto on the populations there. And I always characterize it as the people that come here from all these places in Latin America are coming here for their stuff because we stole their stuff and it's here now. What do you think of that idea, of that, applying that concept to pretty much say Haitians, for example, Jamaicans and other black folks in this hemisphere?
Different reparations are needed for that. Different reparations, different discussion, different conversation.
And that's actually what I would say. I would say much like say if ADOS was a founding work layer of unpaid labor, which came first, then they would get their reparations and share ahead of others in a larger portion because they were doing more work earlier. It'd be like founder shares.
Yeah,
then you would get first
Yeah,
layer investor shares. Then you get it'd be like tiers based upon what generation you started unpaid labor, your demographic, and then how much per scale average.
And
I got to
of
throw.
course.
I got to
And
throw
then,
another
of course,
one.
in the imperial model, where we're looking at the other countries as they come here, in this sense, the whole society really is culpable. I mean, just like whites are culpable, quote unquote whites, over the period of Jim Crow and earlier, because you can see that some of this stolen labor was spread around. We benefited from their labor, even though we're working class. I mean, there is that contradiction. It's very real. And if you look at the U.S., if you totally equalize the society here, the rest of the world, or certainly, all the so-called third world countries are looking at this saying, okay, you've got our stuff, give it fucking back.
Yeah.
I mean, you follow it to its logical.
I was going to say the first step of that is when it comes to Haiti and all these other countries is to stop the current actions that are actually. First things first. Let's stop doing what we've been doing. But I do have an interesting point to break out to as well, though, because I hate to quote Bernie Sanders, and I know we went from AIDS and Dr. Fauci in the hearing, and now we're at reparations. But I mean. That's the way it goes here at Drive Time, wherever the conversation goes. And when you got Jay Johnson, you got to take advantage of it. Jay, how do you feel about what Bernie Sanders said too, as well? Kind of like, it's not going to help us to just dole out money from people that we might owe it to in this particular current system that we have, right? Like, if we start cracking off checks, how is that going to really create generational wealth? In a way, and isn't the fact that the system that we have taking place right now, being that it's been so freaking controlled, out there, and so much of the new finances that are being generated, the new money that's being created, so much of it goes to these top 1% corporations, right? In other words, does it make sense to put shiny tires and a nice steering wheel and a paint job on a car that has a crappy engine inside?
So that's a great question. And so what I would say to that is I agree, and I think that a lot of these things should be done in parallel. I believe that, say, if you have a direct democracy system where you have direct voting contributions, then the people will be able to check the authority of things. Just like Supreme Court, if people have issues with them receiving gifts, so that there's like all three branches of government are currently checked by corporation. Now, if the people got that power of voice and were able to raise up and say, hey, look, no, this is our country, we're not doing legal bribes, then they would have to course correct. So whenever you have systems where internationally these people had their lithium jacked and we're not receiving the proper wages because of X, Y, and Z, and you got fintech out there keeping the top 1% up there doing whatever they're doing. Like, yes, it's ridiculous. So without us to balance that out, you essentially have a monarchy ruling class with dukes and counts, et cetera, without having the monarchy. It's tongue in cheek. They have a system that's tongue in cheek and it's a royalty system. And in order to do that, we're smaller and we don't have the resources. So we have to be faster and we have to think more impactfully. We have to go guerrilla.
Yeah, it's systemic. Look, there's a problem with trying to democratize, in essence, an oligarchy. That's what you're describing, and that's our main problem. And there's a historical precedent for the recent historical precedent. It's very similar to how reparations would play out here under the present conditions. This concern that Bernie Sanders mentioned. I don't think that's his real reason for bringing it up, but it is there. In the Soviet Union, when the Soviet Union was dissolved, was taken apart, the big industrial enterprises belonged to the government, oil and gas companies and food distributors and agricultural manufacturers, whatever, all of that. So all of the citizens were given shares of stock in these private corporations that were set up. And then everything stopped. And you couldn't buy anything with the money that you had. And people started selling their shares because there was rampant inflation. People's savings if they didn't really need to save much there, but they were wiped out. The pensions and everything were wiped out. And the prices in the stores became out of the reach for everyone. So they started selling off their shares to the only guys who had money. And those were people who gave themselves money on the way out the door of the socialist economy. And so within like 2 or 3 years, oil companies owned by 2 or 3 guys, this is owned by 2 or 3 guys like that. Behind them was money coming from here. And that was how they planned to acquire basically the infrastructure and the mineral and mining rights and everything else of the former Soviet republics. And they did do that in a number of them. And so until you get rid of, like you're saying, until you get rid of that guy with the money that's in the room, people who are living exactly the way they live today, tomorrow with a check in the bank or whatever, are not going to have a lot of choices other than to start spending that money on their fucking living. And if you get a couple more run-ups of inflation, that money in the bank is going to disappear pretty quick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just going to be sucked in back into the oligarchy's pocket at the end.
You got to take it down first.
Yeah, that's
or
why
together.
It's really important to dismantle as much as well. We can redistribute, but we have to dismantle too as well. Jay, I have a video over here while I got you here because you are a man of color or a black man. I don't like to say man of color. I like to say black man because when I say man of color,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, when it's like man of color, and I learned that from my stupid progressive liberal friends, right? My Bernie Sanders people, like, oh my God, and then it was a black man who told me, hey man, could you call me a black man, not a man of color, because I'm not, there's brown people, there's yellow people, there's white people, there's black people. I'm black. For those of you who don't know out there, Jay,
not to mention African American to me infers that one of my parents is not from America. I'm vested in this country. If we get casinos here, I want mine. Don't take mine.
I ain't gonna mess your shit up. All right, listen, I got this video over here. So this is a good video. And the most hesitant group out there in the United States for this vaccine, and rightfully so, was black men. And I was happy about that. That means people were doing some of their homework. They could go back and look at what happened in Tuskegee and whatnot. Yeah. They try to pull this stunt. Sleepy, I heard Sleepy go, yeah, he knows what video's coming. They try to pull this stunt where Fauci and a bunch of advocates of his went walking around, knocking on doors, asking people to get the shot. Like, we're going to bring the shot to you. By the way, Don, I want to open up a burger joint and call it the Balacios, right? Remember when he said you can get the burger and fries? And so I'm going to do a burger place called the Balacios Burger. And to commemorate, you get a free burger, fries, and a shake if you take a vaccine. But this is great over here. We're going to play this video for you that use in the audience, and you want to call in 561-247-2721. It's 561-247-2721. This is great when Dr. Fauci just falls right on his face when they went to some guy's apartment, and he came out, and in a way he was really calm, but you can see in his eyes he was licking his chops like, okay, explain this, asshole. And they end up walking away. Let's watch this video, and we'll get your opinions. We'll let Jay jump in, being that Jay's a black man who wants his, and I'm an Italian guy. And by the way, too, Don, and I'm not just saying this, if the reparations conversation comes up, I'm sure there's going to be some Italians that are going to jump up in there and say, what did we do for factories and building these buildings in New York? Now, I think the majority of the Italian immigrants did get paid, but there were a lot of Sacco and Vanzetti. There were a lot of Italian bodies that were sacrificed in those factories to make sure that we had some type of, what's the word I'm looking for? A manufacturing base.
Ruling class.
Yeah. A working class. I don't understand the Italian people now today because they want to deprive the immigrant today of the same beautiful story they had. We were called WAPs without papers. But that's just another thing. Let's get back to this video. I don't want to get too far off the reservation. You guys are watching Drive Time. I'm here with Don DeBar. We got Jay Johnson on the phone. Sleepy Jay hanging out in the wings. Gabrielle Freedom, our producer, holding it down. All the lovely people in the chat. I want to say hi to Fred Edward. I want to say hi to Snorky. You guys are making the show great. Dave, I see you. I love you. And Stace as well. Here we are. Dr. Fauci, I am the science.
The people in America are not settled with the information that's been given to us right now. So I'm not going to be lining up taking a shot or a vaccination for something that wasn't clear in the first place. And then you all create a shot in miraculous time. It takes years to create vaccination.
Well, it used to take years.
Okay, it used to.
You know how many years were invested in this approach? About 20 years of science to get us to be able to do it.
20 years is not enough. And 9 months is definitely not enough for nobody to be taking no vaccination that you all came up with.
The only reason I'm talking to you right now, as close as we are, is that I've been vaccinated.
Right.
But if it allows thousands of people like you don't get vaccinated, you're going to let this virus continue to percolate in this country and in this world.
Something like the common flu then, right?
And not
it's
like
much more
flu.
serious than the flu.
Well, the flu kills a lot of people annually too.
You know how many people died of the flu the last year? I mean, not this year, virtually none, but the previous year, about 20 to 30,000. You know how many people have died from COVID-19 in the United States? 600,000 Americans.
Well, the number that you all giving that died, that's once again, that's you all's number.
You gonna pass?
Yeah, definitely.
You gonna pass? It's like they just had an objective. They wanted to get their objectives. How's my microphone sounding now? Now the red button's coming up. Is it too loud or?
You're good. You're good on mine.
I can hear you a lot better.
Yeah,
okay.
me too. Yeah.
It's just like they have an objective, and the lady's repeating the lies. If you don't get this vaccine, you're going to allow this thing to percolate. No, the vaccine companies let you know that it doesn't stop the transmission of the virus. It just lessens the symptoms, right? My favorite
going to call you a
meme-
super spreader?
Yeah, my favorite meme was when Chris Rock got slapped by Will Smith. There was a meme out there. He goes, "Thank God I took that vaccine. Otherwise, that slap would have been a lot worse than it really was." that was my favorite meme. But Jay, how did you feel when this vaccine came around and it approached and whatnot? And Sleepy, did you have something to say on it? I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
No, I was just piping in for a second.
But Jay, how do you feel about this whole thing when you see this guy kind of talking to as well? You know he did his research. You know this guy knew about Tuskegee, that they infected black men with syphilis just to study how it would go. I mean, they were actual lab rats, and that's why the black men were the most hesitant against the shot in the United States. And why would we trust the same people who would use human beings as lab rats to juice us up? And Don, as you know, on the left, Medicare for all was one of the most, things fought for from the left. Why all of a sudden, and I'll let Jay go first and then you can follow up, why all of a sudden will we believe that our adversary, right, which was Big Pharma for getting us what we wanted, why would we all of a sudden believe that they would be good, benevolent, out of the blue? Jay, you tackle it first.
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of great points. So as far as trusting Dr. Cobra Commander's little pet, Dr. Mindbender, which of course was influenced Dr. Mingala, him going door to door to me it's hilarious. I mean, I think there was a lot of people who did forget their history. They get caught up in the politics of the moment. Their party said with this messaging, and then they just jumped on board. Unfortunately, my parents were on that train. But they did forget that. Well, I don't know whether they did or did not know the history. I think they just dreamt it up in a fever dream. But I mean, I was there. I was watching when you guys were covering it, when Nico was covering it, when Kim was covering it. And I was like, everything that they were saying. When I looked at my research, also made sense. So I was like, I'm not taking it. Moreover, I've done studies before. I've done medical studies, and I've participated in certain things, and you get compensated. So when my family members and friends were talking about, hey, they got these free movie tickets or they got this money, I'm like, they just compensated you for a medical study. How do you not see that? You've got no liability. And then they went back and they purged the liability. And then I'm sure they can just say, hey, well, look, they signed off. So me personally, I'm like, look, when do these corporations ever do anything for our interest ever? They're going to get some kind of return on investment. And if they're not, then it's some kind of wacky, crazy, upside down world. And I guess Freddy Krueger is no longer in charge. I don't know. But all I knew is I wasn't taking it.
Let me say this much,
man,
Jay, though.
I got to jump.
Yeah. What's that?
Sorry?
You got to jump?
No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, you're talking about...
Another.
You were saying about the movie tickets. I just want to say, those were really good cheeseburgers that they were giving out that de Blasio was to take the shot.
Oh,
I mean,
the Blasio got it covered, man. The billionaire dollars, man. It's like, man, you know what? They take care of the billionaires. They keep coughing it up toward us. I got some money at Big Pharma. I'll come up with a cheeseburger, man. Cheeseburgers for everybody.
But cheeseburgers are like a symbol of the sick diet that we eat. I can't imagine how they didn't see the dissonance in here. Have this shit that's going to clog up your heart and do everything else so that we can do this healthy thing for you that's not really experimental. It's just brand new.
That's also...
Yeah, they're cheeky. Yeah. They're cheeky, man. They probably got those cows fresh from Bill Gates. Hey, man, you guys take care.
We love you, Jay.
Love y'all back.
Paul, I'll call you later. I just got back from Peru, so I know you were sending me some stuff, but my head was kind of spinning over there handling some stuff. But we'll have a conversation over the weekend if you get some time.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Look forward to it. Got some good stuff for you.
You got it, Jay. Jay Johnson, everybody.
Jay, hit me up on Facebook too. I'd like to chat with you some when you
unfortunately, I'm not on meta platforms, man, but maybe Pasta can get us in contact another way.
I'll get you in contact with each other.
We'll work it out. Good. Cool.
Yeah. Jay's always got a lot of things to say. Love you, Jay.
Love you, man. Bye.
Later, buddy. You're watching Drive Time, and this is... I'm going to start a cheeseburger,
fries when you get vaccinated?
Look at this. Look at this.
I'm on
I
Twitter
got vaccinated.
too, by the way, Jay.
Yeah.
You're saying I could get this? These delicious fries?
What the fuck?
But there's also a burger element to this?
Why don't you just inject that into your aorta?
Let me check with Bill Neathart. Is it too early in the day to eat a burger? No. This could be breakfast? Okay.
What an asshole.
I want you to look
This
at
guy's a
this
fucking
and think
clown.
about, again, some people love hamburgers, some don't. Really want to respect all ways of life. But if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of vaccination. Vaccination, perfect. Perfect. I'm getting a very good feeling.
Yeah.
About vaccination right this moment. Free fries when you get vaccinated?
I mean, the quote up there is, "I can't believe this was real." Oh, it was real.
It was real.
It
was
was
everywhere.
real.
That shit was everywhere. That kind of shit.
They were giving away free marijuana in California.
I didn't know
They
that,
were
but
going from bar to bar in Boston, and giving
Copy
pints
that.
of Guinness for a vaccination. You know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
you can get a donut that costs them 15 cents to make.
You
the
know,
donut,
all
yeah, the free
out.
donuts.
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy. And the thing about it is, when it came to talking about COVID-19, the way what changed in me was really realizing that a lot of the people who were passing away and dying were overweight, unhealthy, whatnot. It made me there was a sense of individual responsibility that really kind of rang inside my brain when COVID hit. And that's why I've been kind of battling, trying to get rid of this eczema, figuring out what it is and what I have to do. So much has to do with getting a lot of vitamin D. And as we know, they have all these sun dimming projects, which made me think, wow, they want me sick. They want me always going to the doctor so they can make money. But what we put in our bodies and what we eat, and yet them giving away Guinness, cheeseburgers, donuts, it's we live in a fucking cartoon at times, and this is the perfect example of when we live in a cartoon. Don, I know I posed a question for you before Jay got off that I wanted you to answer. What was that question?
There's one little story I want to tell you on the same point.
Please go. Please tell stories.
When this was overcoming the culture and they started painting the fucking floors in the supermarket and all this crap, and putting hand cleaner on every table in restaurants.
When you sit down, you could take your mask off because the COVID didn't exist below 4 feet.
That too.
Yeah.
But so I went to Squires. You've been to Squires with me. It's like my
love it.
Whatever.
One of my favorite places to go. But do you even go there anymore now that you're not drinking so much?
Yeah, we still go there. Yeah, I think we went there last night or the night before. As a matter of fact, night before last.
Good food.
Then I this particular night, like it was early in this, I was sitting. I came in and sat at the bar. And I don't usually do that, but it was crowded or something. Some guy sitting next to me picked up this hand cleaner, and right when they delivered to me this big ribeye steak, squirted this shit, his hand cleaner, all over himself, and doused my whole plate. I just looked at it. I said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" But this is where people are at. This is suddenly the culture. And in terms of individual responsibility, it's pretty interesting because each individual that was buying this shit that felt the need to do so imposed it on other people, scolded or worse other people, family members, whatever. It was like a mania that gripped it, worse than a religious mania. It was insane. And that cultural damage, it's still out here percolating.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway.
It still exists to this day. I mean, no, it's still there. Look, in California, and I talk about the court systems, how awful it is, right? So since we don't have a fair election system,
right,
and our lawmakers, our owners have selected people, and we haven't elected them, you're going to get a lot of shitty, fucking, stupid people involved. Gavin Newsom is appointing some dumb ass fucking judges. There's a judge that still wears a mask in court, like literally in court wearing a fucking mask as she's talking. I mean, these are the people you're putting in charge. I can't understand her half the fucking time. I'm like, and when she does open her mouth, she ain't got anything wise to say. Right. And that's the second stupid dumbass fucking. I mean, it's just this nepotism that's going on. It's the Boys and Girls Club. If we had a system in which it worked, in which we can hire and fire people properly, things would be so different. We would have a representation, of the people. But that's what they use against us, Don. That's what the people who don't want the I call it collectivism. When people go, "Are you a socialist or a communist?" I'm like, I know I'm a collectivist. I believe that there's some forms of collectivism. We as species, like I said before, one species on one planet playing nicely in the sandbox, that we can do for society to help us out while still maintaining our freedom and whatnot. Your clip that went viral, right? We can still feed people, house people, and it doesn't have to infringe on our freedoms or whatever, and it can be done.
Yep.
That clip that you have, and
Yep.
I'd love to play that on the show. Don, if you can send that on over to the private chat, let Sleepy put it on up.
I'm going to do that right
It's
now.
got millions of views, and really, to tell you the truth, it's my spirit animal, right? But I was talking to somebody last night that I said, well, my co-host ain't going to be here today. He's got family responsibilities. So I'm going to call Don, and I bet you 99.9% that he's going to definitely come on. Unless he has to go somewhere, Don will be there. And that person was like, man, Don is one of the most underrated journalists out there. And I said the same thing on the show the other day, man. But it is, because I really do believe, and remember the show I had you on with Angela McCardle and Mel K, right? Which I don't speak to either one of them anymore because they're both idiots. Sorry, I have to say that. No, I'm fucking done with their bullshit fucking Trump shit and their logic behind a lot of things. I got coffee coming. Thank you, madame.
But how do you really feel?
Look, what is this? Well, look at the mug. I didn't even know what kind of mug that is.
It's a Betty mug. It's a Betty mug.
But you do have a way, and I think that I understand why people they don't want too much centralized power. Why communism and socialism can be bagged on a lot. But you have a way of explaining it, which is very humanized, right? It's a human element. You're okay. I think that's very, very important, because really when it boils down to is like we want to see our fellow human not suffer. I think a lot of people are at least look at socialism in a way because they want a floor where the most vulnerable are not left out in the cold, right? It's not about making the most money you can. What was the saying, Josh Sleepy, that you told me once before? We got a bunch of people who are just a bunch of wannabe millionaires of sorts.
Temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Or billionaire.
And people focus on that and saying, if I can be a billionaire, I want this system rather than the system that watches out for the very few. By the way, you have it, Sleepy, right? The video?
Yeah, it's in here.
You want to play it first, Don, or you got something to say?
Go ahead. Yeah, that's cool.
Play it. Go ahead.
That's a good lead into the conversation.
It's a great lead in.
It's entirely possible.
What is your hottest political take?
It's entirely possible to provide food, clothing, shelter, housing, education, and medical care for every human being on the planet without fighting a war or ripping anybody off or handing over control of yourself to someone else.
I completely agree. That's a good one. And it shouldn't be controversial to say that.
But it sure as shit is.
What is your hot?
How many views does that have, by the way?
How many million? It was like 7.5 million last time I looked.
Yeah, that's got a crazy amount of views. So could you repeat exactly what you said now so we can hear it a little bit better from you? And how do we obtain that? And what are the challenges to get there?
Yeah, all I did was state the obvious. I didn't actually come up with a program, but we could sketch that out. Because I have tried to do that most of my adult life. What I said was it's entirely possible to provide food, clothing, housing, medical care, education for every human being on the planet without fighting a war, without ripping anybody off, or without surrendering control of yourself to others. And I believe that that's true. We have the tools to do this now. Was it Jay, I think, that mentioned before? Somebody mentioned, I think Jay did. And that was a brilliant insight. It just kind of updated me like that. We have the fucking tool in our hand. These damn stuff, wherever I keep hiding the damn thing. We can be voting on shit all day long. And it's who would believe before you could walk around with a device the size of the communicators in Star Trek, where you could watch TV like they did and talk and also research things research everything, basically, and a whole lot of other stuff with just a little box like this that you could carry around that weighs maybe 10 ounces, whatever the hell it weighs. 30 or 40 years ago, who would have thought that that was possible? Because they were just starting to have popularized cell phones, but they didn't do anything but be a phone. We didn't have an internet that, we didn't have an internet. They had DARPANet, but we didn't have an internet before like 1980 something. And now look at what we have. So we have all the hardware. The problem now is some kind of coming up with a solution of software that is, on the one hand, encrypted to everyone, and on the other hand, makes available all this information to everyone. Is that really beyond our reach? And probably, is that really not already filed in some patent application somewhere or on the shelf some places? I mean, that's the thing that's, with that, why the fuck do we have to have hierarchy in the operation of the economy or the government? We don't. How do we get the people who have the levers to let go of them to design this very fucking thing so we can do this ourselves? That's another question.
I have the answer to that question.
Yeah, revolution.
Benito Mussolini.
How do you
Benito Mussolini. People learned a lot. Maybe I shouldn't fuck around. See that guy hanging with the boots on?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
And I'm a peaceful person. Well, I'm a peaceful person, Don. I'm not a pacifist, but I'm very peaceful. Everybody who knows me, right? Like, not only am I known for being like the best looking, funniest political, independent media political commentator, I'm also known for being one of the nicest guys. And with that being said, you know what I'm saying? I still think that there are some people out there in this world that have gone too far, done too much, and they will always be a plague and a disease on our society. And they have no problem killing off millions of people. Lindsey Graham was a good example. Marco Rubio is a great example right now. There's a lot of people like that out there that just, they can't be saved. And for the benefit of saving society, and I know I get this all the time, you don't stop violence with more violence. I get it. But if you got rodents, you got to get them out of there somehow. How do you do that?
Well, our structure promotes it. One of the things you have to do if you don't want rodents
is not have a structure that promotes it. Yeah.
Cut off their food supply, cut off their habitat. Because if you get rid of them, another one comes in its place and moves in.
That's true. And our system benefits those who are the worst, right? It benefits the sneaky ones. It benefits the awful people, the vultures it benefits. And that's something that needs to change. Really quickly, Don, I don't know if you have any more time because we've got about 17 minutes left of the show.
I can hang with that.
I want you to, you brought this to the show yesterday. You jumped on, you talked about it. I want you to kind of give me the dummies version for it, right? This whole modernizing influenza vaccines in the United States. Now, look, wait, you went over to the part, but basically in a nutshell, are you saying that Donald Trump signed an executive order which allowed the implementation of this vaccine to take place beforehand and the control mechanism? What are you saying this did, all in all, the basic crux of this, if you had to tell me in 3 sentences?
Well, in essence, what this thing did was, number one, make it a policy of the government to produce this vaccine, because it's not specified in the order, but the alternatives that existed at the time, and the most viable ones in the eyes of the experts, which is all that mattered, because 1 or 2 of these models was going to be the one used next time we had the flu, was either what existed, which required development of the vaccine in egg cultures and something that is difficult to scale up. Like, we can't keep a reservoir of chickens to take up the whole state of Ohio in case we have another plague, so we have enough eggs tomorrow to make the vaccine for everybody. That it's a scalability issue that they claimed and probably existed, but required us to develop alternatives that could be scaled up more quickly than waiting on the chickens. And so they had this technology, as they admit themselves, for 10 or 20 years. I forget what it is. I know the actual, information, but a decade or more back.
Yeah.
But they weren't using it for this purpose, and they didn't test it. There was no trials really of any consequence.
But they shot up some rodents. I mentioned
Okay,
this before. They
this-
shot up some rodents.
Right. Well, right, exactly. This made it the policy of the government to pursue that anyway, and then also to convince the public that it was in their need, and it made both of those things a matter of national security. That is the quickest summary I could give you of it. But
And the fact that
it's actually exactly that. There's nothing, everything, all of the things I just said are actually there, but not in those words.
Yes. And the departments that he put as part of the task force, makes you question stuff right off the bat.
Pentagon.
Like, what's that?
The Pentagon,
like the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice. Wait a second. We know the CDC and the NIH would be there, but why is the Department of Defense getting involved here? It's like, hello.
Go up a little higher. Go up a little higher.
Higher?
Yeah, a little
Meaning
bit higher.
This way?
Yeah, that way, right there. Okay. The task force will be co-chaired by the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Co-chaired. So the military's there. So, look, we are barred by treaty from doing biological warfare. But they've been doing it. I mean, we found out about all
the Patriot Act, though. The Patriot Act.
Yeah.
The Patriot Act opened the door. It was very vague, but it opened the door for doing biological weapons testing. Even though we have treaties signed with Russia and China, and we weren't supposed to do that. That allowed us to act like
anthrax.
Yeah.
I know. So
did you say something about
and
anthrax?
Here's the hierarchy. Take a look at how far down the actual national health and all of the different health agencies. All right, so VA, okay, maybe, but that's still military. FDA, that's above CDC and NIH and Medicare and Medicaid. No, it doesn't
and
really
BARDA.
it doesn't really carry any prioritization intrinsically
And this
by
one right
ordering them that way. But it sure tells you a lot about the fucking mindset. They look at legislative intent when they're looking at to interpret law. When you're looking at interpreting somebody's memo and their priorities from it, the things that they put up front are usually the things that are most important to them, that they're trying to accentuate.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. My mother's yelling from the inside. She's being cute right now because she can't speak, right, but she can make noises, and she's excited, and she hears me, so she's yelling. She's cheering me on through the doors, guys.
Good.
My mom, so it's
Good.
awesome.
She did a great job as a mom. She produced an excellent son. He's smart. He's inquisitive, and okay, I'll say it. He's good looking.
Thank you. And funny, please.
Yeah, you are funny. But funny's a funny word,
Yeah. Well, I always say that about the convo couch. I'm like, it's hard being the good-looking, funny one on the couch. Fiorella obviously is the smart one, but
she's cute too, man. Come on, don't be.
Well, yeah, she's awesome. My business partner is awesome, and I love her. And once she's done getting settled with a lot of things, we'll be back. And I think a lot of questions will be answered. Right now, she's got to take time to do her thing. So
I'm on her Telegram channel. On two of them, as a matter of fact. I see stuff every day. She's doing a lot of work.
People are making excuses for being late here in the car. What's this here, Dillian? We late here. Good morning from the car. Dillian, the show's almost over. What the heck?
We're glad to have you.
We are, Dillian.
Glad to have you. Come,
I got an awesome cooking video. Let me see real quick if I can bring it up. What I'm thinking about doing is for my, I do have it right here. Let me get this here. I'm thinking about, so we have a page, hold on a second. So we have a Patreon, Pasta to Go. And we were going to start something on that Patreon at one point for Pasta to Go when the show had a little bit different meaning. Don, you came on that show. It was going to be very much similar to what I did on Jimmy Dore. I was kind of trying to do the same thing, kind of try to bring my audience, or the people who watch me on over, have it on different days than Jimmy, and kind of use that model. I got sick. And then, as I was coming out of it, I continued to do drive time, and I just fell in love with this model, right? The radio show.
Yeah.
And you've had time on KPFK. You knew about WBAI back in the days.
I was on yeah.
So let me see real quick. On the I'm looking for something. On the my Pasta to Go Patreon, I want to. Where the hell? There it is. I got it. I got this, guys. Hold on. No, it's not up. Man. I'm sorry. I want to start sharing back my cooking videos. I have a lot of cooking videos and stuff I can put up. And let me see this. I want to start doing that. I know what I got to do. Hold on a second, guys. Let me do this real quick. Now this should work. Let me see. Here we go. So I had a friend of mine do a video for me yesterday. This is what I had last night in my house. I'm going to play a quick video. Guys, you're watching Drive Time. I'm going to start putting these back up on the Patreon. Take a look.
Viral chicken. Broccoli. Mmm. There's no audio, is that right?
Yeah, I don't think there's much for audio.
Okay. Is Pasta muted?
No, he's there.
Okay. I think it is awesome.
So that was like a little something I did yesterday, whatnot.
When do we eat? You got to get your behind up to New York, buddy, and make dinner.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm gonna every day I cook, and I cook a lot for Mom. That's the one thing I can really. Me and my sister just moved into a spot with my mom, and my sister's a great caretaker. And thank you, Lucia. I didn't know if I could say her name, but since her name's in the chat, thank you, Lucia, for editing it. I have a new. I might have a new editor.
Oh,
We
cool.
got to see. The thing I handle is the cooking for Mom. So I cook for Mom a lot. So I'm going to throw up a lot of my food, a lot of my meals. Keep it simple like that.
Yeah.
Show it. Entenmann Bill, who's right around the corner for you, talks about capellini with garlic and olive oil every Friday. What we like to call the aglio olio is bread. Some toasted breadcrumbs with that, Fred. You can throw that in there too as well. That always helps as well. And really, to tell you the truth, that dish, aglio olio, is the staple for making so many other dishes. You need to know how to make that. You got to use your pasta water. The Italians use the pasta water. My mom does not have cancer. She had a stroke. And since then, she hasn't been able to walk or speak. And this was an active woman. And yes, she did take the shot. She took the vaccine. And it bothered me because she wasn't going to do that. We had COVID. We beat it. We used the McCullough protocols, but her doctor convinced her while I was in California to take it because she had a heart issue. And she took the clot shot, and she got a blood clot, and a stroke happened. I'm not saying it was from that, but I would not say it's not from that, and it's something.
That's why they can do that, by the way, because it's really hard to prove this or that thing in isolation. You have so many cofactors.
Yeah. This was one of the most divisive things out there. We were talking about the reparation situation where they say, we're going to take money from that guy across the street. That's going to cost divisiveness rather than take it from the bank, which was the the lineage to the people who owned the slaves that made the money, whatnot, and they have to pay for it, and it's going to bankrupt that bank, and it's going to shut down where everybody can get behind. COVID did the same thing. People were pointing across the way, this guy is not helping us out. He's not doing the shot. Don DeBar is not taking the shot because he doesn't care about us as a community. And I'm going to do my part. I'm going to take my shot, get my Band-Aid, and put it up on Instagram to show everybody that I did my part.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of the most divisive things out there. It separated people. Thanksgiving dinners were very hard. Karen Kwiatkowski talked about it Wednesday on the show, her brother and whatnot and what she experienced. It's tough. And this was a plan by the elites for quite some time, right? I look at the lockstep document. You pulled up something, the executive order, and you said, just look at this, we know. But even before that, the lockstep document from the Rockefeller Foundation was out there. It pretty much was a blueprint for what happened in Event 201 and whatnot. And these Malthusiasts wanted, they wanted to cleanse the planet and get rid of some useless eaters. So, Don, I'm going to let you go because it's 9:53 and it's at the top of the hour, and you're feeling your stomach and looking for something like
I'm
this.
smelling breakfast upstairs. I think Margot's whipping up something for me to eat.
What's
when I get up there.
Margot making? And tell Margot I said hello.
Margot makes. I'll do that for sure. I think she hears you. So she's
how's
probably
Sammy
watching.
doing, that little bastard?
Yep. So
how's Sammy?
Sammy's cool. He's probably listening too. You could say hi to him. He can't answer back though.
Sammy's funny. He's a funny little guy. He loves turkey. He loves turkey.
He does. He does like.
You got to give Sammy turkey. Well, I know you're not doing KPFK and the Rebel Media anymore, and that's a shame. They
Yeah.
really lost out. You did some amazing work over there. What are you doing now? Are you still going on Press TV, RT, anywhere else?
Yes,
Where can
Press
people find your
TV.
work?
RT hasn't called me in a while. They do call once in the blue.
Me too.
Press TV a couple times a week, some weeks lately, and more or less constant for the last. When was the Occupy Wall Street? What year was that?
It was before Obama.
Was it? Okay, so it's before 2009 anyway. So since then I've been on Press TV really.
Yeah.
Because I was down at whatever the hell the place was, but down by Wall Street, the park that they occupied.
Yeah.
And interviewed there by Press TV, and also went from there. And then this is in October of when they did this, up to where their studios used to be over by Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. I can remember sharing an article from Don DeBar. Not me, somebody else shared an article for Don DeBar going after Medea Benjamin and causing fights inside a chat. And that's like, I was like, boy, before I really even knew Don that well, I'm like, I like this guy over here. I'll never forgive Medea Benjamin for supporting Barack Obama over Dennis Kucinich. That was bullshit too, as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And I wish though I didn't indulge myself so much in ad hominem because it's too easy to get played that way.
Yeah.
In division again. What I'm trying to do is look at the material things that are going on, critique those. The people whose hands are on it only matter if they're, if they have their hands on it, it matters. And so I critique her, but I did it. I could have done it more objectively, I think.
I don't think so. No, I'm going to tell you something, and it's not that I think that we should go balls to the wall and call people out and expose people, but we do have a hero worshiping mentality.
Yeah, that's a problem.
We have
I
to
know.
somehow cut that shit.
I understand.
And I'm not going to say that Medea Benjamin doesn't do good work, but she has some questionable things about her. I'm not going to say that Amy Goodman doesn't do good work, but some of the shit that comes out of her mouth is such bullshit and crap. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it seems like it's kind of like this in the club elitist mentality that they're not at a level suffering where, they can say certain things, right? Like they're not suffering enough where they can make alliances with establishment candidates. And that's what's going on in WBAI. You know what I'm saying? I got people out there who make decisions who are sharing Cory Booker tweets. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, enough, man. I'm sorry. And I don't give a shit if you throw me off the air or you tell me what's what. That's bullshit. I'm never going to capitulate and say the Democrats are the lesser of two evils ever again. I've already played that that game before. The Republicans just did that now with Donald Trump. They've played that game. We did it with Obama. It's time to realize that these parties are a bunch of elitist, fucking blood-sucking stenographers for the ruling class, and we got to get rid of them and unite ourselves. Don DeBar, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for an amazing show, Don.
Thank you, man. So anyway, short, direct answer. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, YouTube, a few others, but I monitor those closely. So, if you want to see anything, hit me up, and I've got the blog. It's Don DeBar at dondebar.blogspot.com.
All right, brother. We love you, man. He's interviewing
Thank you,
AI
God.
nowadays. I love it.
Take care, both of you guys. Be well. Thanks to everybody that's participated today, and thanks to everybody that's watching.
And have a great weekend.
You too, brother. Take it easy.
So a couple times, Sleepy Mike, you muted my mic because of the back thing, because I had my mic up. I turned my mic down so that wouldn't happen. Maybe
I think we need to work on positioning the mic. I think it's still when it's up high enough to hear you, it's picking up your laptop.
That's what I'm saying. Can you control the volume on your end? Do you have some type of software you're using there?
No, it's StreamYard on that one.
It's just StreamYard. Fucking sucky.
We can work off that.
We got to work on that. We got to work on the music. We got things to do. I got to work on dinner tonight. I'm making skirt steak with chimichurri, sweet potatoes, and some more broccoli again. My mom likes to eat broccoli, so I make a lot of broccoli. By the way, the salad that you saw wasn't complete. I ended up making a fig vinaigrette. I used fig preserves, a little Dijon mustard, a little salt, a little pepper, and a little olive oil, and whisked that all together. And I also put a little feta cheese in the salad. So you had that feta cheese flavor with the sweet. Stace, I know you can confirm on that. That's the way to go. The contrast, you get a little of that pungent cheesiness, but the sweet vinaigrette and the beautiful lettuce together. It's like a beautiful canvas. I love making salad dressings on the fly very quick. It's very, very simple. So tonight, skirt steak, sweet potato, broccoli again. But I'll probably do the broccoli a little bit different. I got some fresh dill I want to use. By the way, my friend also, Miguel Santiago and Dillian, gifted me a lime tree with a bunch of limes with a bottle of tequila too as well. So I'm going to squeeze the fresh limes. I got the tequila. I got to get a bottle of Cointreau. I forgot to get that. I'll use a splash of orange juice in there, and I will also use a simple syrup. You got to use a little simple syrup in these drinks. Sugar is very important, just a little bit of it. That's what simple syrup is when you're making cocktails. If you don't have simple syrup at a bar, you're not going to make cocktails properly because you need a little bit of it for balance. And you also need to shake with ice, but strain it into fresh ice because you don't want the ice that's lost its integrity, but you do want enough of that water released with the simple syrup, the water and the sugar to be released into the other ingredients to get a good balanced drink. So the Cointreau, tequila, fresh lime, and then the simple syrup I'm going to make. But I'm going to make it with my friend's rosemary plant. So I'm going to make a rosemary simple syrup with that, and I'm going to batch that in a nice margarita so we can have that maybe Saturday or Sunday night. Who knows? But that's what's going on food-wise in my neck of the woods. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Let's get to the final monologue and get on out of here. Let me know. There we go. Look, as we wrap up today's show, let's take a moment to reflect on the importance of diversity of thought and the peace we can cultivate with our neighbors. In a world that often feels divided, it's our differences that can actually bring us together. Every unique perspective, every story shared enriches our collective experience and fosters understanding. Remember, it's okay to disagree. It's how we handle those disagreements that truly matters. Let's embrace dialogue over debate, compassion over conflict. When we listen to one another, we open the door to meaningful relationships. By engaging with our diverse communities, we can find common ground and build bridges that promote peace. So I encourage you to reach out to someone with a different viewpoint. Share a meal, have a conversation, or simply listen. Let's create a ripple effect of kindness and understanding in our neighborhoods and beyond. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Remember, together, we can celebrate our diversity and pave the way for a more brighter, more peaceful future. So until next time, keep the dialogue flowing and the peace growing. I want to thank my team, Sleepy J, Gabrielle Freedom, for joining in with me today and always holding it down. I want to thank everybody in the chat, all our wrenches, whether it be Fred Edward, Stacy, I love you. I love you, Miguel Santiago, Dillian, all you people out there. I really do. I am blessed to do this. I said to myself, if I can't be thankful and feel blessed by getting up and do this, I'm never going to feel blessed and thankful for doing this. You guys have been amazing. Intimate Bill, I love you too as well, man. The way you've been promoting this show has been incredible. Hemcar, you're always showing up on time. I don't want to forget everybody. There's so many great people. I really do love you all, and I'll see you next time on Monday. Oh, I'm going to be on the Kyle Lanzalone show today, so if you want to watch me over there, I'll be hanging out with the Big Ragu on his show. You know he's a regular here on Thursday. We'll be back Monday, probably with your favorite neighborhood Zionist. And yes, I am going to continue to have him on the show, even though I am an anti-Zionist. We're going to have these conversations, and we're going to talk this stuff out. Thank you guys for coming on. I love you all, and peace.